felt myself falling.
So the first thing you felt was yourself falling.
Yes, like a.
But you're in a car. What do you mean?
In my mind, I went into a place of like I can see my body falling from my eyes. I can see what I'm seeing, but I can't react. It's like a sunken place. That's real. I know it's people. It's just movie and things like that, but that is real. Where like you can hear and you can see, but everything is so distant. There's nothing you can do about it. And I felt myself falling away from my eyes, and then all of a sudden, I let myself go straight to hell.
Straight to hell.
Mm-hmm. Before that point happened, my soul left my body.
What was that like? I mean, how do you know your soul left your body?
Because it was an aerial view. I was passed out or going what I was going through first and then passed out, but I can see where my dad was going. I told him the lanes he was changing. I told him the cars he was going behind, everything. And my dad was
so after you came back, you told your dad everything that happened while you were passed out?
While I was passed out.
And you were like in the air looking at it?
I felt like an eagle looking down. I can see almost the whole city, but I can also see my dad at the same time. It was something unbelievable. And then when it got to that point, I went straight to hell.
You went straight to hell. How do you know it was hell? What did you?
Number one, it was a very short fall. You go from an aerial view and then boom, I could feel myself get pulled down immediately. I went straight to hell. And when I get there, it is not like a lot of the movies and some books and stuff. It's nothing like that. It's hot, but there's no fire, but it's very hot.
I'll just say that again. That's an important point. You said it's hot, but there's no fire.
It's hot, but there's no fire.
Okay.
It's like molten rocks. It's like molten rocks. It's really hot. It's really orange. It's glowing. I'm talking thousands of degrees glowing. Like, it's not supernatural in the way of heavenly, but this is still a supernatural thing because the ground is thousands of degrees, but your feet aren't burnt. You're very hot, but you're not passed out.
And see, a lot of people don't realize that the Bible actually says that hell will one day be cast into the lake of fire.
Yes.
So hell right now is not necessarily the fire, but the Revelation says it will one day be cast into the lake of fire.
Yes.
So you saw that place right now. Where do you think it was? Because you say you went down. Do you have any sense as to where you were?
If I had to take an educated guess, I would say more like the center of the earth is what it felt like. It felt like the center because it's glowing, molten rocks all around you. It's like people are standing on shells of rock. It's very hot. It's glowing. You're very thirsty. You can't breathe. You're extremely hungry. There's extreme torment. I mean, the odor is terrible. I mean, everything about hell you can imagine is everything bad you can imagine life is what hell is. You can't breathe. You can't talk. You're in torment. You're screaming. It's very hot. It's not fire, but it's very hot. You can't seem to grasp the concept of real life because it's all of your worst. Just for a second, take your worst thoughts and your worst experiences and stretch that for eternity. I mean, take the deepest hurts and the deepest things, the worst mistakes, all of those things, and the devil puts it to where like you are thinking about that stuff so much, you are losing your mind for the rest of your life, for eternity, forever. We're not talking about 10 minutes. We're not talking about having a bad day or a bad week or a bad shift at work. We're talking about for as long as time could ever last, eternity, you're going through torment, losing your mind.
Now, the Bible says that in that place, the worm dies not. And when you look at that word worm, it actually means your conscience. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is the torment is oftentimes thoughts.
It is your life. You're thinking of your mistakes. You're thinking of things you've done wrong, people you've hurt, things that have hurt you, people that have died. You remember your life. Hell isn't a made up, he's just making you feel crazy. Everything you ever went through, even things that you didn't go through that you could have went through, he shows you. So in hell, not only are you hurt from the things you went through, but you're hurt because now you realize how good God really was to you.
Were other people there?
Yes.
What, like a lot? Or
it's a lot.
All around. So do you hear sounds from other people?
You hear a lot of screaming, a lot of crying, a lot of torment. And the thing is, you can see everybody. Everybody can see each other, but you can't talk because you are losing your mind so much you can't even grasp the concept of communication. It's not like you're blinded that's what adds to the worst part of it. You can see everybody else's hurt along with yours. And you still have that in your heart. You still hurt in your heart while you're in heaven. So you're seeing people go through what they're going through and it hurts you even more.
So were you trying to get out of there? Were you trying to scream out to God? What do you remember about?
You are in a place to where the hurt is so bad because you realize how good God was. Part of the torment is you are begging God to save you. You are begging God to come get me out of this place, and it's too late. You know what you want, but you realize it's too late at the same time.
Now in Luke chapter 16, we have that passage where the guy from hell begins to cry out to Abraham in the bosom and say, would you dip your finger in some water and bring it down here? Because I'm tormented in this flame. I'm thirsty. So is that what you...
Yeah, you're extremely thirsty. There's two things that make it hard. You're extremely thirsty, and you can barely breathe.
Now, some people have the question because you're not in your body, so how do you remember? How do you talk? How do you feel? How do you encounter thirst?
You know, it's actually not a physical thing. Like, you don't feel it here. You feel it, like, here. Like, you feel like you're thirsty. But I don't think it's just a thirst for liquid. I think you have a thirst for God that's unbelievable. But now you're at a place that is way too late. I don't think it's just about, I need water. It's that too, but it's really, I have a thirst for God now, because the devil, literally, you're seeing everything that God kept you out of, what you could have went through, places you could have went and died.
Now, Dad, you're still looking at him, and he's still not there. You're still driving him to the emergency room. You have no idea he's going through all of this. When you heard this part of it, what did you think?
It's amazing how prayer, things shift with how you shift in prayer. As I was rebuking Satan, I was crying out to the Lord. I felt a power go through my body and through my hand. And the Lord said, don't take your hands off him. So as I was prophesying to him, I was speaking about his purpose. I was speaking about what God created him for. I was saying, you shall live and not die. And I said, thank you that your purpose shall be fulfilled. So I was speaking as the father would speak to his son before the throne. We was driving about 100 miles an hour the whole time. I'm praying one hand on him, and I'm telling you, God is with us, because I'm one-handed going through traffic about 100 miles an hour in the Escalade, and just. So by the time we get to the hospital, he hadn't moved. So the Lord put in my spirit Lazarus experience. And I said, what do you mean, Lord? He said, call his name. So he was sitting there. He hadn't moved for the last 10 minutes. And when I called his name, he didn't move. And that scared me. I screamed his name the way Jesus must have screamed Lazarus. And I said, Joshua. And when I said it, he came to himself. And it was like it was a quickening spirit, because he really looked around like he didn't know where he was or where he had been. And he was so weak that I had to go around and actually pick this big boy up and put him in a wheelchair, because he didn't have no strength.
How long, if you can even quantify time, did you stay in hell?
About 15 minutes.